Okay, welcome everyone to the Montessori Culture Curriculum. I'm Gemma, for those who haven't had future webinars before with me. So I am a Montessori educator and have been in Montessori for, I was trying to think about this on Saturday, maybe 20 years. So I have had many experiences in Montessori with both the 0 to 3 and the 3 to 6. So this is one of our first sort of webinars with that's talking about the cultural curriculum. So before we start, we'll just do acknowledgement to country. So I'll just go on to the next slide. So we acknowledge the traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respect to the elders past, present and emerging. So I have found a quote here that is on culture. So Montessori's thoughts on culture. So I'll read it here and then we can go deeper into what the meaning behind the quote. So we shall walk together on this path of life, for all things are part of the universe and are connected with each other to form one whole unity. So Marie Montessori had a big love of her thoughts on culture. She wanted children to understand and learn about the world that they're in. And to understand this, they must come to love their world. And this is only through experiences. So I'll be going on and talking about experiences a lot. So you'll probably hear this repetition word experiences quite a bit in this presentation, because unless children have real experiences in the world, it doesn't mean anything. They cannot have abstract. They have to be sensory explorers with their world. And the next slide will talk about what actually culture means in the Montessori curriculum. It is such a big topic to talk about, and one that I feel that is often overlooked in the Montessori classroom. Sometimes we focus on the language and the maths and some of the other curriculum areas, but this is a curriculum area that is often overlooked, and sometimes it's one that can help children who sometimes have trouble connecting to things. You connect them to culture, and it inspires and drives their learning. So let's go on to what is the culture curriculum. So culture is everything that connects the child to their wider world. So it's geography, science, art, music, history, and community. And in the goal of the cultural curriculum is to nurture respect, curiosity, and joy. So there is a lot in here, and as you can see in this picture here, this is one of the Montessori materials that she has made about the flags. And there are many, many different activities that the children can do with the flags. In the younger age groups, they don't focus so much on the geography part, but definitely in the 3 to 6. The younger groups is definitely science, art, music, not so much the history, but definitely community. So when children are very, very young, their family is their culture. And as they start to grow and extend out, they start to learn more about their broader community. So first with the family, and then it starts to broaden out. And then when they get into that 3 to 6, they will do more geography and history. Okay. So the child's mind is absorbent mind. For those who haven't seen some of my previous workshops, the child between 0 to 6 has a mind that works like a sponge. And why is 0 to 6 the foundation for cultural understanding? Is that the child will absorb everything about their culture. They'll absorb the language, the customs, the music, the movement, and they will do this effortlessly. They will do this at a time in their life where it is joyful and there is no effort to absorb this. So this is why the child in a 0 to 6, they will absorb everything that we give them about culture in in this age group. They love it. It is not work for them. It is joy. So they love learning about countries and continents and different types of flags. They will take it in like a sponge and becomes part of who they are. Culture is not taught. And as I mentioned before, it is absorbed through meaningful experiences, real experiences where all the senses are engaged. And when children are exposed at this stage, it forms the foundation for their worldviews, values, and respect for diversity. They see everyone. It's this inclusive environment. So let's go on. So what I'm going to talk about now is I'm going to talk about each of the curriculum areas and then give some examples of ideas that you may want to do in your home or if you're a teacher in your centre. Being aware that these are just very small ideas because the culture curriculum has a whole book of experiences for a trained Montessori teacher. But you can start off very simple. That's all you need to do. So let's look at the first one, which is nature and science. So here, for the very young children, it's all about hands-on outdoor exploration. It's about going into nature and just being part of nature, of being part of nature in all the seasons, in when it's hot, when it's raining, all the type of concrete, real experiences, rich sensory experiences. It's about learning about plants, animals, season, and weather. And when children are in this environment, they are absorbing this. The educator or parent, we don't need to be commenting too much. The child is just absorbing this through their senses. Some examples that you may want to try in your home or at your centre are caring for plants. So you may encourage your child to do watering of plants. And as adults in the environment, we also need to be showing respect. So they're going to be watching us and modelling what we are doing in the environment. So if we want children to care for plants, we also need to be showing the care that we give. So we're going to be caring for plants. So that involves so many different activities: watering, dusting leaves, repotting. If you have a love of gardening, show the child that love of gardening that you have. Simple gardening activities, planting seeds, watching the growth. So the observing the growth could even be extended for the older children. And it includes and involves so many other activities: language, maths, sinking and floating activities. These can be introduced from a very young age. So for the under twos, we have different objects that they can place in the water. We don't necessarily need to be talking about sinking and floating. The child is just having experiences. When they get older, we can be talking and getting them to categorise and sort. But remember, at the very, very young age group, it's just about exploring, and then we use the language and get them to make comparisons in the older age groups. In the Montessori curriculum, we have puzzles that show parts of. So in this photo here, this is a photo of parts of a leaf. So before a child does this material, this is a 3 to 6 material. The 0 to 3-year-olds need to have experience with leaves. They need to have experience with feeling, touching, smelling leaves. Because then in this activity for the 3 to 6 age, we're actually going to be talking about the parts of the leaves. But children need to experience all of these things in real concrete before we bring into the abstract, because this puzzle here is an abstract experience for the child. In observing insects, worms, or small animals in nature, and also having pets at the centre or pets in your home as well. For the older children, this part here, nature journaling, going out into nature, going into the garden and drawing what they see, and using magnifying glasses to observe plants and insects, going up very close to them. So this is just literally just a taste of activities that you can do in this space. There are many, many more that you can do. But the main one for the younger age groups, and also moving to 3 to 6 is just having experiences in nature. So the next curriculum area is geography and the world. So you'll see in that photograph that we have a globe. This is the second globe that we would use. The first globe is just around, showing the child that the Earth is round, and that the sandpaper is on the globe, and there is rough. The continents are rough, and the water is smooth. So the child is learning about there is land and there is water. Then the next globe is around showing that there are continents, and there are the different colours help the children see that there is different continents in the world. Yeah. But first, the child also has awareness of their place in the world as well. So let's go on and have a look at some examples of activities that you could do in your home or in your centre that that can support the child with learning about the world. So nature walks, pointing out the land, water and sky around you, giving the children the names of things that they're seeing in the environment, the differences. Then once they've had a concrete understanding of this, we move on to sorting pictures. This would definitely be for the 3 to 6 age group, and we're sorting pictures into land, air and water. You'll see in this photograph here, Marie Montessori made up some trays, and these were to show the children the different land and water forms. But you do not need to have these materials to set them up in your space, either in a classroom or a home. You can easily, just as I've put here, create with bowls or trays. So you could have an island, clay and water, and a lake, a hole in clay filled with water. So you don't need to buy these resources to create these activities for the children. Flags of the world. Start with flags of countries that your family has connection with. So if you're a family that has 2 different countries, start with those flags. In a classroom, have the flags of the children in the different cultures in that space. And there are many, many different activities you can do with that. The children love making their own flags. That's a very popular one. That's something you could do. Culture baskets. This is a great one to have in the classroom or in the home. So you have a box or a basket and you collect items from different countries. So you might have an Australian box, an Asian box, an American box, and then the children can take these boxes and they can talk about the artifacts with an adult, or they can just talk about it with their friends. It does help though if definitely the first time that they use it has been done with the adult, so the adult can talk about what the actual artifacts in the box are meant for, or why are these artifacts chosen to represent this country. Excuse me, losing my voice. Food tasting experiences, trying fruits, snacks or dishes from around the world and show them on the world map. Currently at my centre, we have a beautiful large world map in the foyer, and the children love talking about where their grandparents live, where they live. And we also did somewhere where educators put their names on where they were in the world. So that shows a very multicultural space. You can invite parents in to cook different dishes if you're in a centre, and to share different resource artifacts or activities with the children. Excuse me, I've been talking too much today. So music and movement is another one. So we know from birth, music and movement are just natural ways for children to express themselves. I work as an educational leader in the 0 to 3 age group, and you just have to put on music and they're bouncing their bodies, they're moving. It's just a natural way of being. Singing, dancing, and supporting language development. So music is not just about singing and instruments, it's about movement as well, showing children different ways to move. Often, sometimes I find educators find that doing music movement activities can start to lose, like it's been getting chaotic, but sometimes we just need to show children different ways that they can move their bodies. So just starting with, let's only move our hands today. And that is role modeling. That is modeled by the adult. Children, you know, they do know how to naturally move their bodies, but as they get older, we can also show them that there are different ways that you can move your bodies. Here are some activities here. Playing different types of music. This is really, really important. Often children, or we tend to go to the ones they love, like Wiggles, but it's children, remembering children's brains are in the absorbent period of life, exposing them to so many different types of music, straight from birth. Mozart's, famous composers, doing different music, from, you know, Aboriginal music down to Spanish music, and just any type of really interesting music that you think that maybe the children won't have heard in their space. Yeah. So rather than focusing on the ones that they're really familiar with, focus on some different ones as well. Remember, we want to expose the children to such rich experiences. Singing a variety of songs. Exposing children to multiple types of good quality instruments. And the important part in this one here is good quality instruments. If we are providing a drum or shakers, then the sound that these instruments produce should be beautiful. They should be excellent quality. So they shouldn't be toys. They should be really good quality instruments that actually can play really good sound. Because remember, we want to expose children to the best quality experiences that we can. And what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. My babies group at the moment, we have purchased quite a very expensive drum. It's literally about this size, and it makes perfect. It's beautiful sound, and the babies love using their hands on it, and they also got special beaters. When you are going to use really expensive materials, either in the home or in the environment, you have to set up some boundaries to make sure that all children, babies, toddlers, know how to respect these instruments. Because otherwise, if we let the babies use toys or shakers on the drum, the actual skin of the drum would get damaged. So it's really important that we role model always how to use these materials. Another extension that you can do in movement is providing props like scarves and ribbons that they could use during this. And this is a lovely one here, a listening walk. And listen to natural sounds outside as well. You know, going out into nature and just quietly sitting there and asking children, what do they hear? Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to art. So Marie Montessori focuses on the process over the product. So when especially when young children draw, they are not drawing to produce anything. They are just exploring what a crayon can do, and they're just exploring what a paintbrush can do, or they're exploring the sensory experience. And often when we ask children, oh, what have you made? They may not have made anything, but then they have this feeling or expectation that they have to say they've made something. So they might say, I've made a house, but it may not be a house when they're making it. So we have to just allow children to explore using the materials without there being an end product. If they come and tell you, this is for the older age groups of 3 to 6, if they come and tell you that they have made something, that's fine. But we should never ask a child, what have they made? Because often it's just exploring art and exploring what the materials can do rather than the product at the end. And when it says introducing world art, respectively, having beautiful pieces of art on the wall from different cultures, having them on the wall to show children beautiful artwork. Actually, I actually did a workshop earlier this year, and I listened to a lady who'd done a thesis on art with babies, and she said that babies actually have a preference of the type of artwork that they like to look at. From memory, I'm trying to remember it now. She said that they liked the bright, bold colours, and they also like looking at some of the faces, but don't quote me on that because it was January this year and I'll have to go into it, but she's done a whole PhD and she's actually set up a gallery where parents go with their babies and toddlers to explore art and look at art. So having art, beautiful artwork in your space. So children have, examples to look at. Okay, and so here are some examples that you may want to try in your home or in your centre. So finger painting, exploring textures with safe edible paint if needed, as the babies put them in their mouths, but just letting them explore for the sake of just, having that real rich sensory experience. Starting off with quite thick, chunky crayons and pencils to encourage the early mark making. Stickers and simple collages, clay or Play-Doh. Clay tends to be a lot harder, and actually it's probably better for the development of the hand. And even though Play-Doh is easy, you actually the hand has to work a lot harder in using clay. So depending on the child. Colour mixing. And for the older children, so the colour mixing could be for the older children, and beading and jewellery making. And this is quite a popular one that the older children like to do. So they like to draw flowers, fruit or shells, or whatever you have in the space. That's just an example. So we'll go on next to grace and courtesy. So grace and courtesy in the space is a really, really essential one. It's part of the culture curriculum and it's also part of the practical life curriculum. But it's role modeling and showing children how to live with others respectfully. It's about it's to show them how to greet each other and say goodbye to each other. It's daily rituals of sharing, so meal times, but it's also about building belonging and valuing diversity as well. So it's about the underlying of the space. And these rituals set up the tone of the space as well. Okay, so we're going on to this one here. So these are just some reflections to think about. So Marie's Montessori message, this is just a summary I've taken from her, is a culture curriculum nurtures global citizens from birth. So we want to encourage children who are curious and are respectful and compassionate. Yeah. So we want to expose children, and to do this, we need to encourage them to be in this space, and we need to role model how to look after things. So we need to role model that we don't pull the plants out of the garden and that we use gentle hands with the animals. Yeah. But we want them to explore and to touch and feel things. So we provide them with being in nature where they can do those things as well. And we want to teach them now. It begins from birth. We want them to develop this love. Marie's Montessori's said, if the child is to love the world that she lives in and to respect the world that she lives in, she needs to begin it from birth. They need to be immersed in this space, and it needs to begin from birth. Yeah. I've left a reflection question here if this is something that you may want to do after the workshop. You may even want to do it if you're watching from a centre of how can I nurture wonder in my child's daily life. And so if we follow the child, we will see what they're interested in, and then we can extend on this. So if children are very interested in gardening, then we can take them in and show them different spaces in our garden, and we can do activities in the garden. But starting from birth, babies just want to be out there in the space. I remember when my children were quite young, when my son was 7 weeks old, we had this most beautiful jacaranda tree in the backyard. And every day when I would go out into the garden, I would put a little rug down under the jacaranda tree when I put the clothes on the line, and he would just lie there. And he would have been taking all of this in. The colours of the jacaranda flowers were just so beautiful, and he would have been taking all of this in at 7 weeks old. Yeah. As he got older and older, he, they developed that more love of nature and being in nature. Yeah. So how can you nurture the wonder in your daily life? What's one activity that you may want to introduce into your classroom or into your home that you haven't thought about until now? What's one thing that you may take from those activities that I have suggested, whether it be like maybe in music, you haven't thought about introducing music from different cultures or different genres like jazz or blues. Maybe it's something like that you haven't thought of introducing. And in the art curriculum, maybe it's putting up beautiful artworks on the walls, artwork that children may not have seen. So we don't want to go towards cartoons, artwork like that. We want to go towards work it doesn't have to be famous artists, but work that's going to be really different and draw the children in. And through this, it's going to be so much rich language, and the child is going to absorb all of this rich language. I remember when my son was about 18 months, he had a real interest in dogs. And of course, he knew the word dog very early on, but at 18 months, I decided to extend this, and we had a dog book. We had dogs, so he had that real life experience. We had a dog book, and he learned all the names of the dogs. He actually used to carry around 2 little plastic dogs, and he would tell people when he met them the names of the dogs. And yes, so they absolutely, if you do this, the children will absorb this, and they will absorb so much. I have another lovely story. My son and I used to read Claude Monet's Water Lily book, and it was his favourite book. Every night he would read this book, Claude Monet. And when he was 2, I decided to take him to the art gallery. And he said to me, I want to see Claude Monet paintings because we've been reading the book. And I said, oh, I'm not sure if there's any there. So he actually went up to one of the ladies who was creating the art gallery, and he asked her, do you have any Claude Monet paintings? I think she looked at him like she wasn't expecting to have, for a child of that age, to know about Claude Monet. But this wasn't being gifted. This was just, he had experiences, and I had opened up his world to that there were famous artists. So you can bring in so much rich experiences into your children's lives. And today he's 19. He still remembers that book. I was actually asking him the other day. So we need to think out of the box and think, oh, no, it's too hard for the child. We can't introduce that to the child. It's too hard. We need to think, let's just introduce it to them, because they're going to take it in. If they don't talk about it, that's fine, but they're going to be absorbing everything that that they're experiencing it. Okay, so what? And I've got a last one here, the last quote. The land is where our roots are. The children must be taught to feel and live in harmony with the earth. So we want them to feel this deep feeling towards the earth that they live in, and this deep interest and passion to want to keep learning and keep asking questions about the world that they live in. Yeah, we want them to, and because without this feeling for the earth, they're not going to develop respect and responsibility for it. So if they don't feel connected to nature or connected to the culture that they live in, they're not going to want develop that respect and responsibility to look after it in the future. And we want to raise children who are going to turn into adults who are going to want to advocate for the world that we live in. Yeah. So they need to have daily contact, observation, and care. Yeah. If you don't want to have, like, for example, pets in your home or centre, you can still observe nature and you can still talk about respecting nature. Yeah, you don't have to have the pets in the space, but it's simple as observing a little tiny ant. So when our babies went on a nature walk just last week, we were on this concrete path. And what did they focus on the most? The ants. They sat and they watched the ants moving. Yeah. And that is big work, and it's really important work. Yeah. So that is all for today. I'll just put that up for those who are interested. Thank you for joining me. If there's any questions, feel free to ask any questions. But if you would like any more support of how to implement this in your home with your children, please reach out. I'll leave that there for you to have a look at. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Gemma, I've got a question.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Karthik. Yeah.
Because this is something that we kind of constantly keep asking ourselves at the center while as educators, how do we have culture activities set up? Like when we're talking about sensorial activities or practical activities, there is a process built within that. You actually do a certain set of activities first and then go building on those things, right?
Yeah. So like the pre-work, like the prep work, that keep following on. Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, how do you introduce this in a classroom environment in a more kind of a scaffolded way, so that the children can grasp the cultural aspects that we're kind of trying to teach them. Is there a standard way of doing this?
Well, in the culture, for every age group, so for the 0-3, there are certain activities that do progress on. Like there's, for example, before we would do cutting, the children learn how to tear paper. That one, sometimes some of the educators don't want to do so much because they think it's going to encourage the children to tear books. But I think if the educator is there observing, I haven't found that they tear books. It's tearing paper, so it's developing the hand. So there are set examples of following. So in the geography, we're starting with the land and that I talked about, the globe. Yeah. So there is activities that an educator would learn when they're doing the training. Yeah. If the parent is doing in the home, it's just about giving them experiences and real joyful experiences. In the classroom, yes, there is a curriculum, and that is taught to teachers. That is something I can't do in 1 hour, like a 45-minute presentation. But it's like it's a 4-day weekend workshops. Yeah. But there are set activities that progress and follow on from each other.
Because I've seen, I haven't seen anything from the Australian Montessori Institute, AMI, but I've seen something from the North American Montessori Curriculum.
The Montessori Institute, MWEI, there is a whole curriculum on culture.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and I do some workshops. I think I don't do them that often, but there is workshops that I do on different cultural areas for 0-3.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then there's another educator that does it for 3-6. But there is a step, because I've done the cultural workshops for 3-6. Yeah, there are steps that you can do, and there's all different activities, like that leaf puzzle that was there. Then they would then make their own, like, labeling on a piece of paper, but first it would start with concrete in the puzzle, and then it moves on to the more abstract. Yeah, it definitely goes from concrete to abstract. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you those who are listening and those who are listening to me and replay later on. Thank you everyone. And I'm doing another workshop on, I think it's the social, emotional and Montessori classroom at the end of October. Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening, and look forward to connecting again soon.